Imagine you're standing in the middle of an open plain. The sky suddenly turns dark. A cold wind sweeps across the land. Within minutes, rain begins crashing down. Not the kind of rain that makes you want a warm drink. The kind that erases footprints, floods rivers, soaks everything you own, and might decide whether you survive the week. Today, rain is almost relaxing. You hear it tapping against your window, make yourself comfortable, and continue with your day. But for your ancestors, rain changed everything. It could stop a hunt, destroy a campsite, and force an entire group to fight for survival. Strangely enough, some of humanity's greatest ideas may have been born during those long, wet days. Because when people couldn't go outside, they had to create something inside. For almost all of human history, there were no waterproof jackets, no weather forecasts, no dry cabins waiting nearby. If a storm lasted for several days, people couldn't simply ignore it. They had to adapt. The first danger wasn't hunger, it was the cold. Once your clothing or your skin became soaked, your body started losing heat incredibly fast. Even in regions that seem warm today, nighttime temperatures could become dangerously low after heavy rain. A person who stayed wet for too long risked hypothermia, and without modern medicine, that often meant death. Finding shelter became the highest priority. Rock overhangs, small caves, dense trees, anywhere that blocked the wind and kept the group together. But shelter brought another problem. Humans weren't the only ones escaping the rain. Large predators were searching for the exact same dry places: leopards, hyenas, lions, bears. Everyone wanted shelter. That meant a cave could suddenly become one of the most dangerous places in the landscape. Archaeologists have discovered prehistoric caves containing the remains of both humans and large carnivores. Sometimes they lived there at different times. Sometimes the evidence suggests their lives overlapped. Rain squeezed animals, predators, and people into fewer safe spaces. The world suddenly became much smaller. And in the middle of all this uncertainty, one thing mattered more than anything else: the fire. Today, if your stove stops working, you simply light another one. For ancient humans, losing a fire was a disaster. Although people had learned to control fire hundreds of thousands of years ago, creating a brand new fire whenever they wanted wasn't always easy. Many groups depended on keeping an existing fire alive for as long as possible. If it died, they might spend days searching for another natural source. That's why someone in the group almost certainly became the firekeeper. While everyone else rested or watched the surroundings, that person carefully protected the flames. Wet branches were split open to reach the dry wood hidden inside. Dead wood beneath thick tree canopies stayed surprisingly dry. Certain types of bark could still catch fire even after rain. Every piece of fuel mattered. The fire wasn't simply a source of warmth. It cooked food, dried wet clothing, produced light after sunset, kept dangerous animals at a distance, and gave people a place to gather. Without it, survival became much harder. Eventually, the storm settled into a steady rhythm. Rain continued falling. The hunt had to wait. Travel became risky. Leaving shelter no longer made sense. So instead of searching for food, people began preparing for the future. Stone tools were sharpened. Broken spear points were replaced. Wooden handles were repaired. Animal hides were scraped clean and softened for clothing. Archaeologists have found caves filled with tiny flakes of stone, the waste left behind from making tools. Some caves contain thousands upon thousands of these fragments, not scattered randomly, but concentrated around places where ancient fires once burned. It's almost like looking into a prehistoric workshop. Hour after hour, someone sat beside the fire, shaping rocks into tools that would be used weeks or even months later. Rain didn't stop productivity. It simply changed what productivity looked like. Instead of chasing animals, people invested in the equipment that would help them succeed once the skies cleared. And perhaps without realizing it, those quiet days inside shelter became some of the most important moments in human history. Because while the storm raged outside, human innovation kept moving forward. But surviving the storm wasn't the end of the story. Rain gave ancient humans something they rarely had: time. Instead of hunting, they repaired broken spears, sharpened stone tools, and stitched animal hides into warmer clothing. Archaeologists have discovered bone needles over 60,000 years old, proving that early humans were skilled craftspeople, not just hunters. They also twisted plant fibers into strong rope. That simple invention changed everything. Rope helped build shelters, secure stone tools to wooden handles, carry heavy loads, and create traps for animals. One small invention made dozens of others possible. But the biggest change wasn't physical, it was social. Families gathered around the fire, sharing stories, teaching children, and passing down survival skills. Which plants were safe to eat, where animals migrated, how to survive the next season. Knowledge became humanity's greatest tool. And when the practical work was finished, creativity took over. Deep inside caves, people painted horses, mammoths, lions, and bison with astonishing detail. Those paintings weren't made during a busy hunt. They were created during quiet moments when people had time to observe, remember, and imagine. Then the rain finally stopped. Outside, the soft ground revealed fresh animal tracks. Edible plants began to grow. Water collected in natural pools. The landscape offered new opportunities to anyone prepared enough to see them. So what did ancient humans do when it rained? They didn't waste time waiting. They prepared. They invented. They taught. They created. And by the time the skies cleared, they were stronger, smarter, and better equipped for whatever came next. Sometimes the greatest progress doesn't happen when you're moving. It happens when life forces you to stop and think.